At the top of the Fight of the Year contender list sits Prochazka versus Teixeira. Now, during this epic battle, we saw every technique under the sun. And more importantly, the heart of each fighter, as they fought for nearly 25 minutes. Of course, Prochazka came out the victor and the new champ. But MMA fans all around the world felt there was no loser in that fight. Now we got a rematch between this instant classic to close out this great year of fights. So let's take a deeper look into the upcoming light heavyweight title fight. Yuri Prochazka. It's only right that we start this breakdown with the Czech samurai and the current 205-pound king, Jiří Procházka. Yuri is one of the recent entries into the UFC light heavyweight division, having made his debut in 2020 and has only fought 3 times under the UFC banner. But it just goes to show how great Prochazka really is, and that just in 3 fights, he has captured UFC gold, which fighters spend decades trying to reach and come up short. Currently, Prochazka has a record of 29-3 with 28 finishes. So Yuri is really one of the most proficient finishers in all of MMA. He brings his unorthodox style to the UFC, which he blends with his unique attributes, to deliver 25 KO wins and 3 submission victories. Before the UFC, Prochazka competed in the Japanese organization Rizin for several years, where he was their light heavyweight champ, before making his way to the UFC. Now in the UFC, Prochazka quickly made his name by knocking out Volkan Ozdemir and Dominic Reyes in the second round. The Reyes KO was a knockout of the year contender as well, before putting on a fight of the year contender against Glover, where Yuri came back from a ton of adversity to get the finish. But more on that in a little bit. First, let's take a look at the former light heavyweight champ, Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira. At 43 years old, Teixeira definitely has a good case for being the best old guy in MMA. And that's not a slight at Teixeira, rather it's a testament to his discipline and hard work that he can still compete with these young bucks at his age and the mileage that his body has been through. With an MMA career that started way back in 2002, Teixeira has amassed a record of 33-8 with 28 finishes. Teixeira is more of an equal opportunities guy compared to Prochazka, as Teixeira has 18 wins via KO or TKO and 10 submission wins. Before his recent loss, he was on one of the best stretches of his MMA career.
And here, there it is! Glover Teixeira, 5 in a row!
Having won 6 in a row with all finishes, including finally capturing UFC gold when he defeated Jan Blachowicz at UFC 267.
Oh my God! Oh, they're together! Glover Teixeira breaks through at 42!
Glover is a more traditional guy with his offense, as he blends his boxing strikes with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. As he grew older, he relied more on his grappling, which was why it was such a surprise when Prochazka submitted the BJJ black belt. So let's take a look at what happened in their last match. The first fight between the two. Now, the first fight between the two took place earlier this year in Singapore on the UFC 275 card. Glover was set to have his first title defense, but many felt that the younger fighter Prochazka will ascend to the throne. But not many imagined they would witness a fight of the year contender. During the fight, we saw Glover showcase his much improved wrestling game. It's always tricky to fight Prochazka on the feet because of his unorthodox striking and the tremendous KO power that he possesses. So, Glover nullified this by taking the fight to the ground as often as he could. Although Glover only landed 5 takedowns, each one happened to come with a lot of ground control, which helped Glover get ahead on the scorecards. Yuri had his best moments in the 4th round, as Glover did look tired and was slowing down. Yuri hurt him on the feet, but was unable to finish him.
Just Yuri massive right from Teixeira! Prochazka!
Then when the 5th round came, it seemed as if Glover had the fight won when he secured another takedown. However, Yuri was able to reverse Glover and then submit him in a miraculous finish. Overall, Glover landed 111 significant strikes to Yuri's 120 and secured 5 takedowns. But Yuri did have 4 reversals, and the fight really did come down to cardio and willpower, and Prochazka had both of those attributes in abundance. So will the rematch play out the same way? Let's break down the fight just a little bit more. Striking. When it comes to striking, Prochazka is an enigma. Not only does he have one of the largest strikes landed per minute ratios at 5.77, but he also absorbs 5.4 strikes per minute. This almost equal distribution of strikes landed and absorbed is very unusual for an elite level fighter. However, it mainly comes down to Prochazka's awkward and unique style, where he throws strikes from unconventional angles which land often, but because the strikes come from different angles, it means that his hands are down near his body, opening him up for strikes from his opponents. But thus far, the style is working. However, Glover definitely has picked up a lot of mileage over the years too. By now, he actually has a negative differential between strikes landed and strikes absorbed on the feet. He lands about 3.8 strikes and absorbs 3.93. So no wonder the first fight was so incredible, as both of these guys are not afraid to take a beating while dishing it out themselves. As far as striking is concerned, although both guys managed to rock each other in their first fight, Yuri did land more significant strikes. Yuri has an awkward stand-up style with KO power and a variety of strikes, so we're gonna give the striking edge to the champ. Grappling. Well, no, grappling is a whole other ballpark. Glover lands 2.2 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is higher than the UFC average. And this was true in their first fight, as he was the one pursuing takedowns. He secured 5 takedowns in their previous fight, despite Yuri having a 68% takedown defense. But this number isn't wholly accurate, as before Glover, Yuri mainly fought stand-up fights and had yet to face a true grappler in the UFC. Not only did Glover get the takedown, but he averaged nearly 10 minutes of ground control time. Yuri, however, did display some really good reversals, as he relied on his jiu-jitsu ability rather than his wrestling prowess to get back to his feet. And get back he did. But overall, Glover has developed his ground game a ton in his later years, with over 70% of his recent MMA game relying on takedowns and submissions. So it is easy to give Glover an edge in this department, despite Yuri submitting him in their first match. X Factor. For the champ, the X Factor has to be his takedowns. Before the finish, Glover was up on pretty much everyone's fight card and was about to win a decision. And it was largely due to Glover's ability to take Yuri down and keep him down. So Yuri cannot rely on a Hail Mary submission again, and he has to do better to make this a stand-up fight, or at least get back to his feet much sooner. While for Glover, the X factor is age-related. Even Glover doesn't deny the fact that it's harder for him to get into fight shape the older he gets, and it was this factor that played a huge role in the finish last fight. Glover was just simply exhausted trying to match Yuri's high and erratic pace, and by the 4th and 5th rounds, Glover had emptied the tank and couldn't fight off the submission. So we will keep a close eye on his gas tank if this fight ends up being high-paced again. Prediction? Well, currently the fight odds favor the new champ, Yuri Prochazka. He is a -200, while Glover comes in at a +165. As far as our prediction is concerned, if Prochazka displays an improved wrestling game and lets his hands go, we could see Prochazka hurting Glover early and finishing him within the first couple of rounds. While for Glover, if he is more patient with his ground control and positional balance, we could see him slowly grinding out Prochazka for a round or two before getting a submission, like an arm triangle later in the fight. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell beside it so that you're notified the next time we upload a new video. And with that being said, you just watched us break down the upcoming light heavyweight title fight between Yuri Prochazka and Glover Teixeira. We'll see you next time.